Hello and welcome back to the Watford Way. I am delighted today to be joined by Sky Sports news editor Anthony Joseph to discuss the latest Watford transfer updates. Anthony, a pleasure to be with you as always. Before we start on Watford, I know you're a proud Scotsman. Did you still manage to enjoy the World Cup even after your elimination against Brazil?
Yeah, well, I enjoyed it more obviously when Scotland were playing, and it was such an amazing experience to have Scotland at the World Cup. And I think the fans did themselves really proud over it in America and seem to be getting lots of accolades from the Americans and other fans and politicians over there as well. So I think Boston and Glasgow is going to have a connection in terms of being twin cities as well. So it's quite amazing what we always knew the fans were going to do their bit, but it was just a shame that they weren't able to get out of the group stage. But yeah, still enjoyed the World Cup after, and there were some really good games, and I don't think anything will top that third place playoff between England and France. But that was almost like a soccer aid match or a game of FIFA. I think it looked more like. But yeah, I think I thoroughly enjoyed the World Cup, and despite all the um, sort of controversies around it and the build up to it. Same with Qatar as well. I think that was a very good World Cup, but you do have to also highlight the issues around it when we're working on it as well. So, but yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was good.
What did you make of the halftime entertainment last night? Is that something you was a big fan of? It got a lot of critique on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I my fear is that it set a precedent that you can have a 30-minute halftime break where I don't think that should be the case. I hope it's just Infantino pandering to American culture and American sports culture and things like that. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of a 30-minute halftime show. They can do what they like in a halftime, but I think the players and fans would rather it was kept to 15 minutes.
We'll switch the focus to Watford then. We'll start with this Udinese trio that has been widely reported on social media, the conveyor belt between both clubs. And Anthony, Watford have always used Udinese to facilitate player trading, but I feel this summer that approach has become more apparent than ever, and it's frustrated some within the fan base. Can you talk us through the latest on those deals for Jordan Zamora, Ika Bravo, and Martin Piero, and explain why Watford may have chosen to do these transactions than look elsewhere?
Yeah, so Iker Bravo is probably the one that's close to being done. He is in England. He is due to have his medical today. Probably by the time this goes out, he will have completed his medical. So that's going to be a permanent move, and I think they're expecting him to sign a long-term contract as well. So Spain under 21 international has quite a good as a young player as well. So I think he fits the kind of mold that fans would probably be looking for in terms of a striker rather than just getting some reserve on loan, if you know what I mean. So I think he's perhaps one Watford fans could get excited by. In terms of Piero and Zamora, they're also working on deals. I think those some of them might be loans, or maybe one will be an initial loan if they go through. There's still work to be done on that, but yeah, Watford's have this connection with Udinese. They should use it, and I guess originally what I was being told um, at the end of the season when Ed Still left was that they were going to be looking to rebuild with a more British identity to the squads, and they have tried that. I mean, they explored deals for Billy Mitchell, Adam Webster, Josh Maja, Solly Marsh as well, but their wages are just too high. So the owner Gino Pozzo would like to have more British players in, but you get much better value in the foreign markets, and it's something Watford can exploit and use their sister club Udinese, who are in Serie A, a bit more. So, I mean, the Udinese system worked really well in about 10 years ago with the Gallo, Forestieri, who else? Abdi,
Yeah.
Vidra as well. So I think they're just clinging on to that hope that it can still they can have a repeat year of that. And they also feel like, I think that while it was a disappointing end to the season, it's still a squad there that, remember, that was fourth after 25 games. They were 3 points off second place Ipswich. They don't feel it needs major surgery. Yes, there is a rebuild because there's players being released, but in terms of a lot of the key players are still here. So I think they just want to add to that and add that little bit of quality. And if they can use a Serie A club that they have a great connection with, and which is technically their sister club, then they might as well do so.
Oh, fascinating there, and interesting to know that Watford have explored deals for the likes of Adam Webster, Josh Madger. Those are both players really wanted us to target as a fan. And when we talk about championship experience and the club wanting to bring players like that in, I think Jordan Zamora fits that bill perfectly, right? He was previously at Bournemouth, has gone out to Udinese, gained Serie A experience, and according to your reports, potentially making a return to England. So is it very much a case, Anthony, of still wanting to bring in those of championship experience, but maybe not from clubs in England specifically?
Yeah, exactly. And so that, while, so I think going into this transfer window, they wanted more British style players who had championship experience. But as I say, they've explored deals for so many different players. But the English market is just ridiculous in terms of. I say that as a Scotsman as well. I know how difficult it is for Scottish clubs to even compete with the English market and the Championship, the fees that clubs are getting and putting bids in for. So there's it's you don't get the same value for money as what you could do if you look at players who've perhaps played in England but are now elsewhere and are maybe looking to come back to England. But it doesn't always work out like that. Sometimes you look for that and then you realise, well, actually, this player who hasn't played in England is showing great potential, and we should get him in. We should get him on loan. Loan with an option is always a great way to do things because you can see how they fit, see how the player fits with the club as well, and see if it's a match for going forward.
Really interesting there. We'll switch the focus to Federico Ravaglia, another Italian club, Bologna at the centre of this one, the goalkeeper coming into Watford on a permanent transfer. I think there's a couple of discussion points here. First, can I ask about the reported fee of £6.8 million, as it certainly raised a few eyebrows amongst the fan base. Some have suggested that the initial upfront fee Watford will commit will be much smaller, with the rest to come if both the player and club hit certain goals over the course of his contract. Can you talk us through the latest on that one?
Yeah, well, that would have been the case if it was going to stay as a permanent deal. So I've actually just been told today, my understanding is that this deal is now more likely to be a loan with an option to buy for £6.8 million, but that will become an obligation to buy if Watford do get promoted to the Premier League. So the latest on that is he's been going through a rigorous medical, and there's been a few things that have come up, maybe injury-wise, that have come up in his medical that has meant Watford would rather change the deal, and they're now in discussions with Bologna on that. So it's looking like the deal will still go ahead, I'd imagine. Can't guarantee it, but I'd imagine he's still there having his medicals. So he's just going through a bit more of a rigorous check than is probably normal in these circumstances. So I think with this deal, it's still looking likely it'll happen. It's just now looking more likely that this is going to be a loan with an option, just due to a few things that have been picked up in his medical. Nothing serious, I'm told, but just I think they're just protecting themselves because 6.8 million is a huge outlay, and that's what they were prepared to do. And like you said in your question, of course, the initial the way I worded it was a deal worth up to £6.8 million. So that's if he meets all the targets. Provided I think it also includes there'll be like £1 million if they get promoted, that kind of thing as well. So there would have been an initial fee, and obviously when there was if it was going to stay as a permanent deal, by the time it was done, I might have had more information about the breakdown of it. The initial fee might have been about 2 million, and then it could have risen to up to 6.8. I'm not saying that's what it was, but I'm just giving an example of what it could have been. But yeah, the figure that I had from my information and my sources was that in that moment it was a deal worth up to 6.8 million. But that's still the figure that is going to be carried through. So with this loan with option, if they decide to trigger the option, then it'll be £6.8 million to sign him permanently. If Watford get promoted to Premier League, it becomes an obligation, so they have to pay the £6.8 million. So I think he's a goalkeeper. He's been quite a long-term target for them, and he's keen to come to England. He's keen to sort of test himself here, and also hopefully to move up to the Premier League with Watford at some point in his career. So I think they're getting a quality goalkeeper. What that means for the current number one, I think perhaps this is more than just competition. I would imagine Ravaglia is being brought in.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go into because, of course, Egil Selvik signed for the club a couple of years ago. Again, like most players, Anthony, at Watford, with the prospect and promise of Premier League football. He's been out at the World Cup with Norway as their understudy to Nyland. And I imagine the player does have personal aspirations to go elsewhere, seek football at a higher level, and potentially push for that Norwegian number one spot. That's my initial assumption.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But at the moment, there's been no bids for him. And I think Watford would more than happily keep both keepers, but I think it's going to be hard to keep someone of Ravaglia's stature and Stelic's stature both happy, and you can't really job share a goalkeeping role like that. So I would imagine there might be some movement there in the next few weeks.
And just finally, before we let you go, I just want to touch on the Manchester City relationship because it's something Watford fans have been quite excited about. Pep Guardiola and his staff last season were very complimentary about the way we handled both Max Alleyne and Stephen Mvuni. Could you see a potential return for either of those players this window? If not those players specifically, are Watford certainly exploring opportunities within the Manchester City youth setup?
Yeah, so I'm not so sure on a return for those players, but certainly going forward, Watford, it would be within their best interest to stay close to the City group because they bring in good players from all over, not just through Manchester City's academy, but either from the likes of Girona or some of their other clubs that they've got around the world. So I think we'll see that perhaps maybe towards the end of the window if there are some gaps that need filled, and that Man City see that there's a good fit and they've got the experience, like you said, with Max Alleyne. It was Guardiola was delighted with the way he'd come back to the club. So I think that can only stand Watford in good stead for a future relationship and future deals. But I think that might come more towards it because they're not going to be getting a Man City player on loan with an option or on loan with an obligation. If they're taking a player on loan from the City group, it's going to be most likely to help them out for the short term and also develop a player that Man City would want to use for the season after.
Fascinating as always, Anthony. Really appreciate your time. Where can Watford fans find you across social media to keep up to speed?
Yeah, on Twitter, or X as it's called now, I'm Anthony R. Joseph, and on Instagram, I'm Anthony R. Joseph 91.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you for watching at home. If you're listening on audio platforms, don't forget to leave us a rating. And if you're here on YouTube, click that subscribe button down below. I'll be back later this week to discuss our penultimate pre-season fixture against Hansa Rostock. Until then, I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.